If you've spent any time at all in the markets, you've heard the advice, right? To succeed, you have to trade like a robot. Just remove all emotion. But what if that's not just wrong, but actually impossible? What if the key to peak performance isn't about getting rid of emotion, but really understanding what's driving it in the first place? Okay, let's get into this. And this is where mental game coach Jared Tendler comes in with this absolute game changer of an idea. He argues that all those extreme emotions we fight with, the fear, the greed, the revenge trading, they aren't the real problem. Nope, they're just symptoms. The real culprits, they're the hidden beliefs and the flawed logic that are running in the background of your mind. So that begs a pretty huge question, doesn't it? If we're not supposed to be fighting our emotions, what should we be fighting? This is where we're going to flip the script on a lot of the conventional trading psychology you've heard before. All right, let's just tackle this great big myth head on. This whole idea that you need to be some unfeeling machine to win in the markets. It's one of the most persistent and honestly, one of the most damaging ideas in all of trading. I mean, think about it for a second. Why did you even get into trading? I bet it wasn't out of sheer boredom. It was probably passion, motivation, a deep sense of interest, maybe some curiosity. These are all powerful emotions, and let me tell you, they are absolutely essential for the long, hard grind it takes to become a great trader. If you get rid of them, you get rid of your drive. It's that simple. And that gets to the real heart of it. We're not aiming for a flat line here. Showing up to the market totally bored and disinterested is just as bad as getting completely hijacked by FOMO or revenge. The real goal is to find that sweet spot, that optimal zone where you've got the perfect mix of energy and focus to perform at your absolute best. Okay, so if positive emotions are actually good and we're just aiming for balance, where do all the destructive emotions come from? Well, this is where we find the real enemy. It's not the feeling itself, it's the flawed logic that causes that feeling to spiral completely out of control. This brings us to a really critical concept, the emotional hijack. And this is just a law of human nature, folks. Your ability to control your emotions isn't infinite. When feelings like anger or fear get too intense, they literally shut down your brain's control center, the prefrontal cortex, which is the very part you need for rational thinking. And the process itself? It's like a domino effect. First, the emotion gets amplified way too high. Then, poof, the logical part of your brain just goes offline. And all of a sudden, you find yourself on this revenge trading train that you cannot stop, even when a part of you is screaming that what you're doing is wrong. You've completely lost control. And what's causing that hijack in the first place? It's these faulty perspectives, these hidden biases, these unrealistic wishes, illusions about how you think the market should work. These are like lines of bad code in your mental software, and they're what create that excessive emotion to begin with. Now, this whole thing gets even more interesting when we start talking about our gut feelings. Traders often confuse two very different unconscious processes, instinct and intuition. And understanding the difference is absolutely key to knowing when to trust your gut and when you need to play against yourself. The contrast here is fascinating, really. On one hand, you have instinct. That's just unconscious competence. It's you running on autopilot, repeating something you already know how to do, like when you drive home and don't even remember the trip. But true intuition, that's the exact opposite. It's your unconscious mind absorbing new data, sensing a brand new pattern that hasn't even reached your conscious awareness yet. And check this out, there's amazing research that proves this exists. In a famous experiment, people had to pick cards from 4 different decks. Now, 2 of them were good decks that would make you money over time, and 2 were bad decks that were rigged to make you lose. The results show exactly how intuition bubbles up, starting from a physical level. The results build up in these clear stages. After just 40 cards, people's bodies, their sweat glands actually, showed a stress response whenever they reached for a bad deck, long before they had any clue why. By 70 cards, they had a hunch, a gut feeling that something was off. But it wasn't until 100 cards that their conscious mind could finally explain the pattern. Your body knows first, then your gut, then your mind. That is real intuition forming. This brings us to another huge myth in the trading world, and that's the idea that your success is almost entirely about psychology. Come on, we've all heard it, right? Trading is 80, maybe even 90% psychology. The logic goes that you can give 2 people the exact same system and they'll get totally different results. But Tendler argues that this line of thinking, it's actually pretty dangerous. Because here's the hard truth. You cannot make money without a profitable system. End of story. Having an edge in the market is non-negotiable. Without it, all the zen-like calm in the world is not going to save you. Your system is the engine. It has to come first. So what's psychology's role then? Well, its job is to serve the system. Your mental game is what allows you to execute your edge as flawlessly as possible, day in and day out through all the ups and downs. It doesn't replace the need for an edge. It makes it possible for you to actually use it. And executing that system has become harder than ever, thanks to some uniquely modern traps that are basically engineered to mess with your mind. First up, social media. It's a constant fire hose of lottery ticket wins that creates these wildly false expectations and just erodes your own internal focus. Then you've got some prop firm models, where that easy reset button can accidentally teach you to gamble and blow up instead of developing the grit to trade out of a drawdown. And finally, hope. In performance, hope is passive. It's a dangerous replacement for creating an active, concrete plan to actually solve your problems. So how do we actually fix these issues? The key is to stop treating the symptoms and start correcting the underlying code that's causing them. Let's circle right back to this fundamental idea one more time. The anger you feel after a loss, that's not the real problem. The fear of missing out you get when a stock is running without you, that's not the problem either. They are just loud signals, like a check engine light, pointing to a deeper flaw in your mental model. The real work, then, is to become a diagnostician of your own mind. So instead of just trying to suppress your anger, you have to ask, what's causing it? Is it an unrealistic expectation that you should make money every single day? Is it a perfectionistic belief that you should never, ever make a mistake? When you identify and correct that flawed piece of logic, the emotional symptom, it just disappears on its own. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming a better human. One who truly understands their own mind. So the real question isn't how to stop feeling, it's this. What is the one hidden belief, that single faulty perspective that's secretly running your show? Because finding it, that's the first real step to taking back control.